Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to a very fun and quick and easy sewing tutorial. This is a super cute and trendy quilted tote bag, 100% inspired by what I've been pinning on Pinterest. This project was actually included in my DIY Christmas sewing projects video, but I wanted to re-upload it as a standalone because I think it is the perfect project for beginner or confident sewists who are wanting to make something fun this summer. So I hope that you enjoy this little tutorial and enjoy making a fun quilted tote bag. This is my bag inspiration. So I already made my pattern for this bag. This is the pattern. It is 17 inches wide by 15 inches tall, and then I cut out 1.5 inch sections on the corners, and then the pocket is placed in the center. It's 4 inches down from the top, and the pocket is 7 inches wide. We have the pocket right here, and then we have the bag strap. So those are our 3 pieces. The bag strap is 24 inches wide by 4.5, or 24 inches long by 4.5 inches wide. So those are our 3 pieces.
After you've drafted out your pattern piece, it's now time to cut out all of your pattern pieces from your fabric. I'm using these ruffly pillow shams that I thrifted because the fabric was just so cool. So whatever fabric you're using, you're going to fold it in half and double it so that when you cut the bag out one time, you get 2 pieces. You're going to do this for the outside fabric, and then you're also going to do it for the lining fabric. So we're just going to cut all around our bag pattern piece. So after you cut out all of your bag pieces, you are going to cut out the additional pattern pieces that you need, such as your straps, your lining, and your inside pocket. And these are what all of the pieces are going to be. You're going to have 3 parts to your bag: your lining, the outside of your bag, and then your quilt batting. Your straps, you're going to have quilt batting, 2 straps, and then 2 pockets. The first step in sewing your quilted tote bag is to actually quilt the outside fabric of your bag to your quilt lining. You can do this in multiple different patterns for quilting, but I just decided to do vertical lines that were 1 inch apart and then horizontal lines that were 1 inch apart. Once those are quilted together, it kind of gives it a square checkerboard pattern. The quilting process is essentially sewing a ton of lines all over your fabric, but what this does is connects the quilt batting to the outside of your bag and gives it kind of the fun 3D quilted effect. And here's what all of those quilted stitches look like on the outside of my bag. As you can see, there's a very faint kind of checkerboard pattern. Once all of my quilting seams are done, I then pinned my pocket to the outside of my bag, and I did this by folding in the raw edges 1/2 inch and then pinning it onto the pocket placement. Then I'm going to sew around the sides and the bottom of my pocket, and I actually put 2 rows of stitches side by side. So the first is right on the edge of the pocket, and the second was about 1/4 of an inch, or like just above and inside that stitch, to kind of give a nice double stitch effect. That the outside pieces of our bag are quilted and we have attached our outside pocket, we are going to then place those pieces right sides together to sew our side seams and our bottom seams. We're just going to pin those layers together, and we're going to sew it on a 5/8 inch seam allowance. You are going to leave the corners open though when you are pinning these layers together, because we are going to box our corners. Once you've sewn the sides of the outside of your bag together, you're going to set that aside and work on the inside lining of your bag. This also has a pocket, so we're going to take our pocket piece and fold the raw edges in 1/2 inch and press them. I did that off camera. Then I'm going to center that on one of the sides of my lining, pin it into place, and then sew that down. We're going to use a double seam for this pocket as well, and then we're going to take our other lining piece, place it on top of our other lining piece, right sides together, and then we are going to pin the sides and pin the bottom just like we did on the outside of our bag. Now you are going to want to leave about a 4 to 5 inch opening at the bottom of your bag lining. and then you're going to sew the sides and the bottom, keeping that opening unsewn and then keeping your corners open as well. Your seam allowance for all of the side seams of this bag are all going to be 5/8 inch seam allowance. Once you have sewn both the side and the bottom seams of your bag lining and the outside of your bag, you are going to press those seams open. This is just going to help when we attach our lining to the outside of our bag. Keep in mind our corners are still unopened. Those are going to be the next things that we sew. Next up, we need to sew our corners closed. These are called boxed corners because when we pull our corners apart and match up those side and bottom seams and then sew straight across that corner that was cut, it's going to create a boxy bottom. So the best way to explain this is to kind of pull your corners apart like you're opening a bag of chips, match up the side seam and the bottom seam of your bags, sew those, and then the corners are going to come out all boxy like this. Really nice and professional. Next, we are going to work on the straps for our bag. So you are going to need a quilt batting strap piece and a printed strap piece. You are going to place those on top of themselves, and then you are going to fold in the long edges of the straps 1/2 inch and press them. This is the first step in creating our straps. After those side edges are pressed in 1/2 inch, you are then going to fold the strap in half long ways and press it again, and then you are going to pin that open edge closed. These are what your straps are going to look like after you have pressed and folded them, and now we are going to sew that open pinned edge together. We are actually going to be sewing 2 kind of parallel rows of stitching on our straps so that they have even stitches. So we're going to sew the open pin edge closed with a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, and then across from that on the other edge of our strap we are going to put another stitch that's a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Once our straps are created, we are going to attach everything together. So we are going to take the lining of our bag, flip it right side out, and stick that inside our bag that is flipped wrong side out. Then we are going to pin our straps into place where we want them to have their proper placement. I placed mine about 3 inches from my side seam. And then we are going to sandwich our straps in between the lining of our bag and the outside of our bag. We're going to continue pinning all around the opening of our bag, sandwiching our straps in between our lining fabric and the outside of our bag. Now, you do not have to leave any opening during this part of pinning around the top of your bag because remember, you have an opening in the bottom lining of your bag, and that's how you're going to flip this right side out after you sew it. We're going to sew all of those layers together using 5/8 inch seam allowance. Now that we have sewn all of the layers of our bag together, we need to flip it right side out. Now you might be wondering, how in the world do we do this? Well, that is where the opening in our lining comes in handy, and this is the little bag magic trick that is so fun when sewing projects like this. So we're just going to pull it all right side out, and then you can just stuff the lining down into the bag. We, though, are going to want to press around the top of our bag, and then we are going to stitch around the top to kind of lock our straps into place and give it a little bit more stability and some clean lines on the outside. This seam is going to be a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance all the way around the top of our bag to really kind of top stitch our lining into place and then also lock in our straps so that they don't just rip out when you put tons of books and goodies in your bag. And don't forget, the last step before your bag is officially done is to sew the hole in the lining of your bag closed so that there is no hole on the inside. You can do this by just sewing right along the edge of that fabric. And here is what the bag looks like all finished. So this is a great confident beginner to advanced fun DIY sewing projects, and quilted bags are so trendy right now, so I hope you give this a try.